Tonight on The Record, Donald Trump and Dr. Ben Carson continuing their domination and widening their lead over the 2016 field, and more traditional candidates. The top two-tier candidates hot on the campaign trail.
The president's thinking about signing an executive order where he wants to take your guns away. You hear this one. This is the new.
You know, I get a chance to speak in a lot of different places, but my favorite place to speak in is at church.
Hillary and Bernie Sanders, they just couldn't give things away fast enough. And they're giving them to illegal immigrants. Listening to this guy, he's going to tax you people at 90%. He's going to take everything. And nobody's heard the term communist. But you know what? I call him a socialist/communist, okay? Because that's what he is.
Are there bad, rotten teachers? Yes. Bad, rotten doctors? Yes. Bad, rotten politicians?
I have the nastiest looking picture, like, because honestly, for a period of time, that's what we've got to do.
Brand new poll showing those two political outsiders are the ones to beat, but there's one outsider on a steady decline. The new NBC News Wall Street Journal poll of Republican voters finding Donald Trump in first with 25%, Dr. Ben Carson sitting just behind with 22%, but Carly Fiorina falling to 7% after soaring in the polls earlier in the race. Former White House Deputy Chief of Staff under President George W. Bush, Karl Rove, goes on the record. Good evening, Karl. And are you coming to terms with the fact that Donald Trump could be the nominee of your party?
Well, he could be the nominee, but look, we're a long way away. And you go back to September and October of 2011, and September and October of 2007, and a different person was in the lead in each of those months, then ended up being the nominee. We are going to start voting this time around a month later than we had in the last two presidential contests in 8 and 12. So we got a long way to go. And 26.2%, Mr. Trump's number in the Real Clear Politics average, is still a long way from 50.
All right, so what changes the path? Because if you look at the numbers, his have continued to go up. And so have Dr. Ben Carson. So I guess that's his biggest challenge, at least right now. But what changes it so that his numbers don't, continue to rise or that they start to decline?
Well, let's be careful. He actually peaked in the Real Clear Politics average. Mr. Trump did. The Donald was at 31, nearly 31 on September 19th. He's down now in Real Clear Politics to 26.2. He looks like he's moving up in the Wall Street Journal poll because he improved over the last time that they did it. But if you average all these polls together and follow them, he peaked on September 19th, declined, and has risen a little recently. Ben Carson has been rising pretty much through most of September and October and is sort of plateauing out. Carly Fiorina is the one that's sort of really the interesting movement. Between the 19th of September and the 28th of September, in all the polls, she was somewhere between 13 to 15 in the polls. And today she's in the Real Clear Politics average, I think, just over 5.
What happened to her? I mean, how do your numbers go down? What's the explanation?
Well, I think the broader thing is that people, look, lots of people have not made up their decision. The vast majority of voters are either not locked in or even haven't made a decision. They might have a preference, who are you for today, but they're not locked in. And so Carly Fiorina did well in the debates. She did well in the Kitty debate, the first one. She did really well in the second one, and she boosted her numbers, but out of sight, out of mind. And you need to have a second or third act besides what you're doing in the debates. And she is, I think, faltered because after the debate lights were turned off, she sort of disappeared from public view. The question is, will she move again when this debate comes up? And that's going to be important for the national polls. What's really mattering now is how are these candidates doing in building an organization, connecting with voters, and in Iowa, New Hampshire, to a lesser extent, South Carolina and Nevada. And we won't know that for months. I mean, remember, at this point, Rick Santorum in the national polls was an asterisk, and he was the guy who won the Iowa caucuses.
All right, Karl, thank you very much. And I can see that we got a long way to go. A lot can happen. Thank you, Karl. And